Hey guys, this week we're going to be repairing the bridge on an acoustic guitar. Stick around. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of BS with AJ. As I said before, this week we're going to be repairing the bridge on my guitar. Now I went to borrow this guitar from my mom and it had been sitting in a closet for several years. It was still strung up and everything, and the bridge basically tried to rip off. When I got it, the body had a pretty good bow in it where the basically here's the body, here's the bridge, and it had about a 1/4 inch gap, and it actually made the body bow quite a bit. I kind of showed that a little bit in the video, but I'd already been working on it a little bit, kind of bend it out and everything like that for a little bit there before I started the video. I was actually in the middle of doing this repair when I stopped and thought to myself, well, maybe I need to make a video about this to help somebody out. If you've got a little bit of woodworking skills, you should be able to fix this basically the way that I did it and not have any issues at all. It's been set up for a couple of months now. It's holding tune just fine and it looks just fine too. So I will say this, I am not a professional guitar builder. I'm not a professional guitar repairman or anything like that. So if you're watching this video and you are one, I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance because I don't have the proper tools, and I can almost guarantee you that I'm not going to be doing it the same way that you would. But anyway, like I said, so I'm going to show you basically step by step how I went about repairing it. I did start about halfway through the repair process, but I kind of go over what I did up until that point. So anyway, before we get started in this video, if you like videos like this, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and consider supporting BS with AJ on Patreon so we can do bigger and better projects for you guys. Let's get started. Alright guys, so I was actually in the middle of repairing this bridge when I thought, well, maybe I ought to make a real quick video maybe it'll help somebody out if they're having the same issue as I was. So I went to borrow my mom's guitar, and it was still strung up. It still had a lot of tension on it and everything. And the bridge was sitting like this, and you can see a visible gap on the bottom here. And you can see where it's trying to pull it apart from the wood. So I went ahead and took all the strings out, took all the bridge pins out. And this particular one was held in with a little bolt. It's got a flat head on the top and a little nut on the bottom. So I took all that out, and that nut's on the inside of the guitar, just so you're aware. You will have to reach in there and take that off by hand, and you don't want to lose those if you're going to reuse your old bridge like I am. Now you can buy a new one, but there's a couple reasons I'm reusing this one. One, this is the original bridge that came on this guitar, and this was my mom's guitar. I'd rather just keep it original. And two, because this chunk right here on mine, when I went to take it off, this is going to help to line it up exactly where it's supposed to be. So I don't have to measure and all this stuff. I've just got to line it up with obviously the outline of where the bridge is, and this will help keep it straight basically. So to take off your bridge, like I said, I took all that stuff off, and there's still a glue joint holding it basically. There's glue on there, and you're going to have to work it back and forth with like a scraper. And you'll want to be real gentle when you do this. You don't want to scar up the body of your guitar or anything. So you're just going to kind of stick it in here and work it back and forth really slowly, and just go all the way across the back. Then I went to the front and did the same thing. And then I went back to the back, and like I said, you really want to be slow and careful about it. Don't put too much pressure, because if it slips, you may end up putting a big scar in the body of your guitar. So once I got that off, I realized I felt on the inside here, and there is a backing piece underneath this bridge, but it's only about 1/16 of an inch thick, if that. So I wanted to stiffen that up. And also I looked at it, and I don't know how well you guys can see it, but it's actually bowed. It's not as bad. I kind of worked it out a little bit by hand, just kind of pushing it a little bit real lightly. But it's bowed, and the highest point is the very edge of where this bridge sits. And that's because of all that tension on them strings. So to help fix that and to help strengthen the back of this and everything, so maybe it doesn't happen like that again, I went ahead and made a backing plate. This is just a 1/4 inch piece of oak that I had. You can get it from your local hardware store. I'll put a link down in the description below. And basically what I did is I just took my bridge here and kind of put 2 marks on there, so that way I could line it up about where I want it. That's where all them 2 blue marks are. And then I just kind of cut it a little bit bigger than the bridge itself. And then after I did that, you kind of got to guess and check. I stuck it on the inside here, and there's braces running, depending on your guitar, it depends on how it's set up in there. But I've got to avoid some bracing that's around here. So I put this up there and I just kind of guessed and I got lucky, and I only had to make one cut to where this fit pretty nicely in there. And once I got it fit pretty nice, I put my bridge in place. I stuck this underneath it, held both in place. It's kind of difficult to do by yourself. If you can get somebody to help you, that would be the best bet. I didn't have anybody here, so you may struggle a little bit like I did. But basically, I held this underneath it. I set this in place, and then I used these screws right here that fit just perfectly inside there. So it helped to center where the hole needed to be drilled in our wood. So I used this, I held it in place, and I basically marked the center of each of all of these holes here. And once I did that, I went ahead and used a drill bit. I believe it was a 16th inch drill bit, just small enough. And that way I went ahead and marked everything out to where it needed to be and pre-drilled it, so that way my screws don't kind of go different directions and end up making the bridge twist or anything like that. So that's kind of important if you're going to do it the way I am. Now, they do sell, they're basically C-clamps. The regular C-clamps are tall. These are like long C-clamps, so you can get them in from this side and hold your bridge down. Now, I don't have any of those on hand, and I really didn't want to have to go get any. So this is my idea. I'm not 100% sure it's going to work perfectly. But basically, this backing piece, I'm going to use that and these screws right here to go ahead and hold this down. Use them as clamps, basically. And I've already pre-fitted, I've already pre-drilled everything and put the screws on there. And it does help this bow just a little bit. It's not going to get it perfect, and it's not going to make everything perfect. But it's going to be better than nothing, basically. You can go buy those clamps, or actually I'll put a link down in the description below where you can get those clamps online if you'd like. But this is the way I chose to do it. You can do it however you feel comfortable. So yeah, basically now all I've got left to do, I've already sanded this decently here. That way it's got a nice smooth surface, got rid of all the burrs from sanding in there, from drilling through there. And then I'm going to need to sand this up in here a little bit, not a lot, because I want to make sure this is going to line up in there. But I do want to rough up this surface so we got a nice glue surface. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some regular wood glue. I'm going to be using Type Bond 2, and again, I'll put a link down in the description below. But you can use pretty much any wood glue for this. Just something that's not going to be really, really fast, because you're going to want to take your time to make sure and get everything lined up right and tightened down to where you like and everything like that. So I'm going to apply glue to the top of this, to the guitar itself, and then to the bridge. And then I'll put them all into position here. And then I'm going to slowly use these screws here. Like I said, I've already pre-drilled those, so I'm going to line them up with those holes here. And I'll just kind of line it up and slowly get them all in there. Once all the screws are in place, I'll go ahead and slowly tighten them down, just a little at a time. The reason we're going to do it slow instead of just hammering down on this, because we don't want to damage our old bridge. So if you got a new bridge and you've got the clamps and everything, you won't have to worry about this part. But I'm going to do it with these screws just because that's what I've got on hand, and I want to go ahead and get this working pretty good. So that's my game plan. I'm going to use those screws as the clamps, basically. So yeah, that's the game plan. Let's go ahead and get started on it now. Alright guys, so I was going to do this in fast motion like I generally do, but I wanted you to see about how long it's going to take to do it if you're doing it by yourself, and also just to show you how much we're actually putting pressure on these, because we're not putting a lot of pressure on here, because you could end up, like I said, breaking your bridge or something. Now the glue has been sitting here for about 3 minutes to give it time to soak into the wood real good, and it looks like it's soaked in pretty good. If you need to add more glue, we're going to on this backing piece, just because I couldn't put any glue on the inside here. We'll put just a little more glue here, not a lot. But you want to make sure that the glue is going to stick pretty good. You want to make sure that it's had time to set up or to soak into the wood to give it a stronger connection, basically. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put the inside piece in here first, which is going to be interesting without getting glue everywhere. If you get some glue in some places, it's not that big a deal. It is, at least the kind that I'm using, is water soluble whenever it's still wet, that is. So, okay, we've got that into place. I'm holding it there now. It may hold itself up there for just a minute, long enough for me to spread this glue a little better. I'm going to put a little bit more on here, not a lot. There's a couple spots where it soaked it up pretty good. Alright, and we're going to spread that around real nice and even here. The glue is helping to hold that piece on the inside in place, so that's kind of lucky. I should have done this before I put it in there. Oh me. Alright, so we'll do that. We'll put a little bit more here. You don't want to have a whole lot. You will get some squeeze out, and that's the reason you want it to soak in. So that way you actually have a bond with the wood and not, I don't know. I learned that when I was making a bow, actually, to make sure that the backing I put on it was really, really strong, and it worked itself into the wood, basically. Now I'm just babbling, so, you know, ignore me. But I put the glue up here to help, you know, keep the mess somewhat contained. Alright, so we've got that there. We'll line this up about where it's supposed to go. Alright, now, where's my drill? Alright, I got my drill here. I got my screw. This is going to be fun. You do have some work time with wood glue like this. I think I've got like 30 minutes or so. Okay, there we go. It's getting a little tighter there. Get another screw. Once I get these two outer ones on here, you won't have to hold inside as much. Whoop, son of a gun. Try that again. Alright, that's in place. Okay. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and put these other ones in place, and then we'll come back and tighten them up. Again, you don't want to tighten anything up until all the screws are in place, so that way it can't move on you. That one is going to be the very last one I put in, because it actually, the screw got a little bit crooked on me as I was putting it in. One more screw to put in, and we'll go ahead and tighten them up, and then we got to do a little bit of cleanup before we actually leave this to dry. You see it's wobbling that one a little bit, so we're not going to put that one in all the way yet. We're going to slowly, you can kind of hear it, and you can see it squeezing down pretty good. And you might be able to get away with just doing the screws on the outer pieces here, but I don't want to take a chance since it's already came off once like this. A little more. Alright, that should have it pretty snug on there. We'll make sure it's not moving around. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and wipe everything up with a wet paper towel to get most of this glue off. Then we'll take our tape off and do a better cleaning real quick. Cleaned up pretty good there. And like I said, if you want to take out each screw individually and then clean out the glue where it's kind of sticking up through here, that way there's nothing left on your bridge. You can do it that way. I'm going to try it with one up here and see how it works out. Alright. Yeah, that did pretty good. So we'll go ahead and do that through all of these. Get all that glue off of there and everything like that. I'm going to put it on fast motion now since I've pretty much showed you what's going on. Alright guys, so you need to let your glue set up for about 24 hours. This has actually been about 3 days later actually. I was waiting on some bridge pins to come in because when I took this guitar from my parents' house, it was actually missing one of them. So I had to order some and wait on them. But yeah, now we're going to go ahead and take all these screws out. The next thing we're going to have to do is go ahead and drill these holes slightly larger because of the wood, the piece of wood we put underneath here. It just has the holes big enough for these screws to fit in. We want to make sure they're big enough for those pins to fit down in them. So we're going to go ahead and drill those out now. Alright, so I went ahead and put the screws back in here. Like I said before, we're going to add a flat washer to the bottom just to give it a little more strength. And we'll go ahead and put those on now. This may be a little tricky if you've never had to put nuts together in a weird position here. It's going to be difficult no matter what, but... Alright, there's one of them on there. Go ahead and get the other one. What I would normally do is I hold the nut on one between the thumb and finger here, and then the washer here. That way when you slip that on there, you can just kind of push that up and then maneuver your fingers around. Kind of difficult to explain. I wish I could show you, but there's not really a way to put you inside the guitar. Alright, I've got them tightened up pretty good by hand. We'll go ahead and get a Phillips screwdriver and tighten them down. And we're going to try and keep the flat side either both facing this way or both facing this way for aesthetic purposes. Alright, so now I've got the screwdriver. I'm going to hold the nut in place here. Alright, there's one. Alright guys, the last thing I've got to do is put my bridge in place. Mine just sets in place. Yours may be set up to where it's screwed down or something. I'm not entirely sure. And then of course we're going to double check that our bridge pins fit. Oh yeah, that's a good snug fit there. Now this one came with, the set that I got came with black and white pins, so I'm not sure which one I'll go with yet, but we'll go ahead and get this guitar strung up and make sure it's going to hold the tension right and everything. And go from there. Alright guys, so it's actually been a couple of months now and everything seems to be holding up just fine. It's holding tune just fine. The glue's not showing any signs of coming apart or anything like that. That backing board we put underneath there not only strengthened this whole area here, but it also took out that bow that was underneath the bridge here. So all in all, it seemed to be working. It seems to be working pretty well. And like I said, it's been a couple of months and it's still holding tune just fine. So nothing seems to be moving around or anything like that. We'll say this: I'm not a professional guitar repairman. I'm not a professional guitar builder, so any of you guys that are watching this video that happen to be those people, I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance. No, this is not the quote-unquote proper way to fix this, but this is the way that your average Joe will be able to fix it on their own. So if you don't know someone that can repair a guitar, or you don't have the money to go buy a new guitar or anything like that, maybe this video will help you guys out, save you a few dollars, and get you back to playing your instrument, basically. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and consider supporting BS with AJ on Patreon so we can do bigger and better projects for you guys. And I'll see you next week.